Get that sorted. Okay, yeah, here we go.
Mikey, hold on a minute. Quiet.
Okay, I think I can see you and we can see ourselves. Okay, right. Well, I'm gonna kickstart our conversation. Yeah. Well, welcome to the Zoom in time, talking about sport, talking about things happening around the world, talking about the African continent, and definitely one cannot talk about Africa without talking about Nigeria. Nigeria is the most populous Black nation in the world with more than 200 million people. But apart from that, here we're talking about what is happening in Europe. We're talking about what is happening all around the world. And without any delay, it's a pleasure to have one of the prolific striker, footballer back in the 1980s, somebody who has graced international football and world, still an ambassador in his time as a footballer, as a former TV presenter, the Gladiators. Remember the Gladiators? Yes, indeed. I'm speaking about John Fashanu, who has been to Africa so many times and trying as much as possible to rebuild the sporting field and the sporting industry in Africa. Ambassador as well, John Fashanu, you're welcome to our Zoom in on sport. Hello, Ambassador John, are you with us?
Oh yes, I'm with you now. I hear you loud and clearly now.
Thank you very much for coming on this slot with us to have a conversation about what is happening in the world, more so around the sport, football. And how has it been for you since you relocate or has been visiting Africa?
Well, I've got to say, it has been absolutely wonderful. I mean, as you say, this is the most populous country, African country in the world, Nigeria. So you never get short of friends here, that's for sure. I must say, you know, you've got to get used to the weather. Being in London, a British man, as they say before, I mean, when you're in London, it is cold or it is warm. But when we're here, most of the time it is hot. So getting used to the weather has been a challenge, but I've been here, what, 14 years now. So wow. I'm used to it.
Wow. That's a long time, which means so far at least you have adjusted into the African way.
Oh yes, definitely. You know, and there really wasn't much adjustment really, because remember, Nigeria was colonized by the British anyway. So you're seeing different friends you've met, and of course, once you play the game football at a high standard, I mean, there's always somebody who knows you, or there's always somebody who will greet you. So you never feel lonely here.
Very good. And of course, talking about not feeling lonely and being in Africa and has been there for some time now, how will you rate the sporting industry in Africa compared to what you left behind in Europe?
Well, the best project.
So people do bear with us as the network over there.
I mean, most of the players have been of African descent. The good players are of African descent. So they're here in their thousands, but it's trying to get them out and get them to the countries where they can do well.
Do you think that Africa still have an opportunity to capture the sporting industry, or do you think they will get to, or either one of the African countries can be as good as any of the European countries in some of the league?
I don't think we have the discipline here. When I say we, I'm saying the country. I don't think we have the discipline here to discipline players to play the type of sports which they should be playing, whether it's football, whether it's swimming, whether it's rugby, whether it's badminton. You know, I see a lot of indiscipline in the game here, which is a challenge. And I think that's something, that's probably the reason why when you go to the English Premier League, when you go to play even boxing, you'll see maybe 1 or 2 players go, 3 or 4 players go. But if it was down on the performance of the players, then you would have most of the teams in the English Premier League would have black African players.
And of course, the black African players presently, they have a major issue that is facing them. Even before the issue of racism in the United Kingdom, but suddenly now we have the George issue, which has gone all over the world and people are talking about it. Now, in your time, when you were still, well, Wimbledon Football Club, you guys were the crazy guys. How do you see that time and now, not even before we talk about the George issue?
Well, you know, I was talking to the former Arsenal striker, Ian Wright. I was talking to Wrighty a few days ago, and he was complaining because from Ian Wright to so many of the other players, black players,
we're waiting for their connection, so please just bear with us, network.
They're jobless. So there is a challenge there, and there's quite a big challenge there, which we know, and I think you can't really get away with it, get away from it.
You mentioned Ian Wright, of course, one of the prolific strikers as well for England, and you've been a striker for your country and done very well here. Do you see the opportunity, or could there be an opportunity when racism would be, should we say, eliminated from the football scene? Paul Elliott, who is now in one of the FA organization, is talking a lot of things that they're doing. Do you see them really succeeding? Would they be able to succeed?
No, let's be honest. In the 30, 40 years of even of Nigeria, of colonization, racism was there then and it's still there now. And most of my friends in London, back home, are telling me it's even worse now. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And what happened with Bob? I mean, it's not a new thing. Let's not pretend that, George being, should we say, executed is a new thing. It's not a new thing. It's been going on for years.
Yeah, go on.
It's been going on for years, and it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop, Ali, honestly. There are so many situations where there's racial discrimination. It's just a mindset, and that mindset will never come out of our white brothers.
So, but what can the government do, or what can the FA and the football organization, what can they do, or the sporting organization, what can they do?
Well, apart from them going overboard and giving black people more opportunities, I think they've just got to just slowly, gently, got to get somebody in. You cannot tell me that John Barnes, who was one of the best players in the world, who played for Liverpool, are you telling me that after his career is finished, he can't get a job as a manager? That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Ian Wright, he cannot get a job.
While I'm trying to get your last comment there, and hopefully you can hear me, you mentioned John Barnes, you mentioned Ian Wright, but will you be right as well to say John Barnes happened to be the manager or the coach of Scotland Rangers in Scotland? And will you not say maybe because he failed over there, that's the reason why people suddenly became a bit not too open to give him another managerial post? And if people like Ian Wright, were they really keen to go into managerial, apart from those that really try and we're not given bigger football club, but starting from the lower bottom?
Well, let's be honest, and let's say, call a spade a spade. I mean, at the end of the day, John Barnes was playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, Liverpool. Yet, do you think that he's managing one of the biggest clubs? Yet you'll see, I'm not going to say names, you'll see players who played, example, for Chelsea, today the Chelsea managers, and they're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Does that club befit John Barnes, really?
I'm with you. Now, of course, why didn't you go into football managerial career here in the United Kingdom?
Because I saw that there was a block. I read the situation. I went from football, I jumped in, I saw that after football, there's going to be no openings for me. One, because, you know, I was an aggressive type player, and obviously I'm black. And so if you're black and you have your head on your shoulders, you know when the time is right to get out, you've got to just get out. I went into football. After football, I applied for 4 or 5 jobs as a manager, didn't get anything. I didn't even get a reply, not even a reply back. So I knew it wasn't going to happen. So I knew it was better to go and finish off the rest of my life and my career in somewhere where you're wanted and somewhere where you know you can get a job, at least.
Very good. Sad situation because, as you said, John Fashanu name in the television industry here definitely is a name that has been recognized, especially during your career as one of the gladiator judges and panel members. How do you feel not doing the gladiator, or do you see the gladiator coming back again? You be able to hear me?
Sorry, repeat that again. Sorry, I've got
Yes,
you again.
I said back in the days, you're a member of the Gladiators. Will you like to see the Gladiators back, or will you like to see something of similar in Africa where you are?
Oh, the Gladiators are close to my heart. I mean, when we were filming the Gladiators, we were having 16, 17 million viewers on ITV. Remember? Awooga! Everyone used to love it. But, you know, the truth is, you cannot even get that type of crowd anymore. You know, football, with all the telephones, the media, what's going on now, you're best. I did a television show, I think 3 weeks ago, and I got 5 million viewers. That, well, of course, that was the SAS, the army, the military show, and they were the highest figures they've ever got. But years ago, 2 decades, a decade and a half ago, we were getting 15, 16 million viewers with Gladiators. And yes, I would love to see Gladiators back.
Do you have bear in mind that now you're in Africa, do you have potential people that can become gladiators over there, either in sport or in different fields?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, of course. We've got them everywhere. There's so many gladiatorial people who are waiting to be full-fledged gladiators. I mean, it's a great show. It costs an